Greetings, friends. Welcome to the Let's Get Gritty podcast with yours truly, Dr. India White. Thrilled to be here with you guys as we are finishing up the school year. We are super excited as sports events are beginning to wrap up in your middle schools and high schools. We are starting to look at summer school, professional developments, and things like that. So I wish you guys the best as we are continuing and we are coming down this hill this education year. Now, I do want to go right into the announcements. First things first, this podcast, the Let's Get Gritty podcast, will be featured on Spotify and on my social media platforms. So thanks for joining us. And feel free to like and share it and all that good stuff. In addition, I want to encourage you to continue to follow me on social media. So Facebook is Miss India White. LinkedIn is The India White. Twitter is Indy Speak and Teach. Instagram is Indy238, YouTube is India White123, and TikTok is Dr. India White. I also invite you to check out the website, www.india-white.com, for books, blogs, or to schedule me for any speaking or coaching event. And speaking of events, we do have a couple of events coming up. We've got FCTM is coming up, and I also have an event coming up in Texas in June, so I'm super excited about that. And of course, I'm always here to help you guys along, not only with that, but with different workshops and whatnot, especially with the G.R.I.T.T.Y Academy and any tutoring supports that students might need towards the end of this year. For you to reach out and let me know, and we will do it to service you. Also, don't forget here, the G.R.I.T.T Mini Workshop. This is the grassroots workshops on that website, and it is titled How to Harness Grit to Help Students Thrive. So check that out if you're just wanting like a little mini grit teaser to support you in your work as you're trying to build and really understand grit. So with that said, I now want to get into just talking about my topic today, which is going to be how we can be gritty to the finish line. So we are wrapping up this school year, less than a month left of school days, I believe, and for many across the nation. And so what I've observed is that, students, in some classes, students are done. Students have checked out. They're going to do whatever they want to do. Teachers are done. They're ready to put in grades. And we're just right at the tip of it. And so before we just crash out and burn before we finish the school year, I want to talk about grit, because it's at times like this that grit really kicks in. I don't know if you were there, if you were able to see the news article or the sporting event. Just this is a sidebar note of the athletes. They were running, I believe, a marathon, and the guy thought he won, and it turns out that he celebrated too soon, and as a result, the person came from behind and beat him. There were two different incidences of this happening this year, I believe. And so I say this because this is the type of period or time frame, especially in education, where we have to realize we're not quite done. We're very close to the finish line, but we're not done. So we might as well continue to push through and do an excellent job and excel with the help of grit. I've talked with many people about what grit stands for, what made sense to me as an educator, and how grit means great resilience in time, and how not only did it make sense, but there's also a framework that came with it. The framework where you start with growth mindset, then you go to resilience, self-efficacy, and time management. And so with that, there are so many different things you could do to really finish strong. So I want to help you. And I actually took a moment and thought about, okay, what can we talk about regarding how we can finish strong with grit? So I do have some pointers here, tips as to how we can stay gritty to the finish line. So first things first, you want to focus on your end goal. I was sitting and thinking about this and thinking, like, why do people not finish? Why do students drop out? Why do teachers quit mid-season? What is it? I usually tailor towards education. So that's why, those are my talking points. But when you think about it, if you focus on the end goal and it really means something to you, you will do anything you can to meet that goal. Even if there are delays, and once you set your mind to it, you will be able to accomplish it with the help of God Almighty. You will. It might take longer. I know of students that, they might have had to have an extra semester, but they finished anyway. Or, you might be working on a project as an educator, trying to get a grant or trying to write a book or whatever it is you've got going on. You can still get it done. You just have to set your mind towards that end goal. So I want to encourage you that if you've not really sat down and say, like, what are my goals? Like, sit down and write it out. Okay. And then I want you to focus. The second tip I have for you is to focus on small successes. You have to reward yourself. I have found that you can rely on other people to reward you. You can rely on other people for that nice little positive rush you might get when someone compliments you or your work or whatever. But that is temporary. You're going to have to develop some type of internal dialogue, internal emotional system that will get you through when no one else is standing with you and when people even rise up against you. I've had several people rise up against me and the work that I was doing, especially when I first started spearheading the work of grit in the math space. And I can recall people telling me to literally stop, like, just, you need to stop, because they did not understand. They did not do their work. They didn't do the research. But then once they were able to look at the TED Talk and once they were able to see that it works and that it was well vetted and respected, they backed off. But there was a time where I had to develop that personal internal dialogue within myself to say, I know that what I'm doing is right. I know it's a goal. It's an end-time goal for me. And I have to get this out. There's a purpose to this. Once I was able to develop that, I just was determined to not let anything stop me until I fulfilled that purpose. And so if you feel like, you still have a purpose, you've got your goals written down and you're not quite where you need to be, then I want to encourage you to continue moving forward and to stop relying on outward praises and supports to get you through, because guess what? They might not be there. Okay. When I was a homeless learner, I know people tell me not to talk about this, but I think it's imperative for people to understand the whole story. But when I was a homeless learner, I didn't have people constantly cheering me on like, a cheerleading squad. I did not have that. There were a lot of cold, weird days where I just kind of wondered why and how I'm going to get through this, right? You'll have homeless students, students that are underserved, also wondering the same. You might be an educator or an administrator wondering the same. You might have so much that you're juggling on your plate. So I want to encourage you first, but then I want you to really, really understand that you do not need the outward crowd cheering you on to get the work done. You just have to be convinced. You have to believe in it. The assignment, you have to believe in yourself, and you have to have a certain timeline that you're willing to make it happen, and you'll get it done. 3, support team is great for if you do have a healthy support team. That is great to kind of run ideas by, to kind of say, okay, what's going on. A support team can also hold you accountable, whenever you're doing these different things. So it's cool to have a support team, but also make sure that they're serving their appropriate place as you're, achieving your goals. Okay, tip 4, remembering your destiny. Why are you doing what you're doing? I find that it's easy to get caught up in being a people pleaser, trying to serve everyone, trying to, just, wear all hats, being a jack of all trades kind of thing. It could be really easy doing stuff like that. But I find that, if you're really trying to master your grit levels, there has to be some type of a balance also in what you're doing. And that takes you recalling your destiny, finding out why you exist, why you're doing what you're doing. I can tell you there are times that, people can get involved in things that might not necessarily be like the will of God for their life. Like they might not be where, they're supposed to be as someone that has been created to fulfill a specific destiny. So I think it's imperative too that we do what we can to make sure that we're where we need to be, and that we're fulfilling our destinies. And then, of course, time management. How long is it taking you to fulfill this goal? I always think of the one time I had a book project that I wanted to do because I love writing books, but I remembered, I just had the time where I really wanted a book project to get done, and I was discouraged for a season, and so it delayed me for about 2 years, but I did finally get it done, because I was determined, and I kind of finally said to myself, I'm going to get this done. I actually had 2 projects like that, 2 or 3, where it was just, I was a little bit discouraged. I said, no, I'm going to get it done anyway. And we were able to finish those book projects. I'm thankful for my publishers and everything else. Now I say that because you're going to find times that you're just tired and you're like, I just don't know if I can press through. I don't know that we can push through on this. And I want to encourage you to go ahead and move forward and do it anyway. Get out a calendar and find out what makes the most sense and what you can really make work within this allotted time frame that you have before the school year ends. Okay. Now, with that said, I do want to also pull up a cool article that I was able to find for us on just tips for ending strong on our school year. Is with the end of the school year, many teachers are very tired. What are some strategies to sustain? Okay, so they're going to explore this. Okay, and it says, I also spoke with contributors who are sharing their reflections. Okay, so, all right. Reducing grade time, very imperative. Okay, so let's keep reading. So it says here, I recently researched what post-pandemic teachers have found to successfully fend off burnout and those who proactively reduced sources of stress within their control. Powerful. Instead of only practicing coping strategies for stress, they experienced greater enjoyment and sustainability in the profession. The biggest bang for teachers' effort in this area involved reducing grading time in favor of planning highly engaging lessons with fewer behavior problems, less academic intervention, right? And then in favor of getting the personal time that the teachers consistently sacrifice. So let's keep going and see what he has to say. So experts like Feldman and Reeves also make the case for eliminating homework in the name of equity, since students drastically have different home environments. Okay. Very interesting. And then adults' presence or ability to help time away from, their family. So there's a lot going on here. So I want to go down now to what we can do. I'm going to go now to what we can do. So here it says, what is so important professionally that can't be answered while you're on the clock? That's interesting. All right, here's another thing. It says, reignite your passion. Passion. It says, many of us feel overwhelmed in our important work as educators. Okay. Just staying afloat means you're feeling like you're running a never-ending marathon, right? And then they talk here. It says, according to Anxiety and Depression Association of America, people across North America are experiencing higher than ever anxiety, depression, and even worse, suicide rates. That's very, I could see that. So here's some things that you can do to replenish yourself. Have a daily emotional check-in. So what emotions am I feeling right now? Where do I feel it in my body? What do I need right now? Okay. I think we need more self-care. The next thing they say is to reframe it. So write a letter to yourself. Take a moment to write a letter to yourself, reflecting on some of the following questions. What are the biggest challenges I've had to overcome? Who helped me stay strong? And what were some of my self-care approaches, some of my favorite self-care approaches that kept me afloat? So I think this is pretty cool. Take the letter and hide it. Then it says refocus. Have a goal reset. I talk about that in my book that I just wrote. Reconnect. Humans are neurobiologically designed to connect with one another. The good news is that with intention, we can develop excellent communication skills with strong boundaries and connect meaningful to those around us. Pretty cool. They did a 7-day text to yourself challenge. Find 1 or 2 solid friends. So I like this because it's all lining up with what we talked about. Find a project, teachers. So I would say something outside of education, but anyway. Okay. And then you could focus on energy management rather than time management. Well, I like that. Okay. Yeah. How are you spending your energy? And then remembering, of course, there is no such thing as perfection. Okay. I think that's really awesome advice that they gave, especially energy management. I find that it is so easy to put yourself around people that I remember somebody saying they're like energy zappers. They just take your energy. I know Oprah mentioned this once as well. This is powerful because the reason why people usually get into teaching, besides, another career or whatever, is because they really have a heart for students. Like they really want to see students win. Okay. They really want to teach something with fidelity and integrity. But there is something about energies that we share. And I've learned this throughout the years. Probably not everybody is worthy of your energy. Not everybody is worthy of your time. Not everybody is worthy of your ideas. And I find that sometimes we get in these circles and we're just doing what we do. And we're trying so hard to be accepted, trying so hard to be relevant that we are giving too much of ourselves and people don't even appreciate it. That is when you have to learn to step back and say, I love you enough to release you. I love you enough to take a step back because you're not worthy of the best parts of me. Now, it's different, of course, if they're making effort, if they're showing respect, if they're showing that they really do care for you. Like some people, do you understand? Some people don't care. They don't care about you. They don't care about your well-being. And I mean, even the same with me. I could literally, like, God forbid something happened to me. There are people that just don't care. There are people that will use you, people that will just step all over you, steal from you, all kinds of things, but then yet want you in their presence. You have to understand that you have value and self-worth, and they're just not worthy. It's best to let go and start fresh with new energy, new ideas, new people, because people usually are not going to change. And like the famous saying, when people show you their true colors, believe them. Stop saying, oh, they didn't mean to, treat me like dirt. They didn't mean to ignore me. Yes, they did. They didn't mean to not text me back. Yes, they did. Newsflash. And as educators, I find that we put ourselves in situations that are toxic. If someone doesn't like you for whatever left field reason, you have to accept that and move forward. You have to stop putting yourself in environments and around people that are zapping the life from you. You were not created to be a doormat. You were not created to be a dog's squishy toy. You have worth and value, and the right people will see that and cherish you at the right time. And until then, do yourself a favor and protect your energy. So that's what that was saying there. So that's some good things that we can do for, staying gritty to the finish line. I also wanted to post, I also was able to find for us the school year with purpose and power. So as the school year draws to a close, a familiar shift, as we know, is beginning to take place everywhere. Our deadlines loom, testing pressures intensify, right? So I want to share with you how we can apply this idea of being gritty to the finish line. First, focusing on that growth mindset. There's so many misconceptions that success is defined by perfection. But I want you to see here, the end of the year, it's an opportunity to shift that narrative of, did I get everything right, to how much have I grown? How much have I grown? Okay. So you as an educator, you can encourage students to reflect on the journey. Ask them questions like, what challenges did they overcome? What skills did they develop? And where did they show persistence? It's all about persistence. Okay. Because growth, it's not always visible in those final outcomes, but it will always present itself in effort and learning. Okay. Now, when you're talking about resilience, so I'll talk about each pillar. So that was growth mindset. Then I'll talk about resilience, and I'll elaborate also on self-efficacy and time management. So resilience, you're pushing through that end of the year fatigue. And so this is not a sign of failure. It's a sign of a response to sustained effort. Okay. So they found here research in American Psychological Association. It talks about how resilience involves adaptive coping strategies, positive relationships. There you go. Okay. And a sense of purpose. So some things you can do for that, you can practice positive self-talk, reconnect with the purpose behind the work. Because when you do this, this resilience is going to pay off. It's going to build in moments where quitting feels easy. And so the end of the year is going to provide for you a real world opportunity to really strengthen the capacity. Okay. Now, for self-efficacy, it's your belief in yourself. You're just saying, I believe this. I believe I can do this. And I think that when you've come from households where it's been toxic, or there's been abuse, or, you just not have had the support that you need, it's imperative that you work even harder to build a stronger sense of self-efficacy. Here it says, the most effective way that you can build self-efficacy is through reflection on past success. Okay. So encourage your students, educators, to see their challenges that they had. They might have been difficult, but now they can manage those challenges. Make sure that they can see the goals that they've achieved earlier in the year. Like, I don't know if you keep a pie chart or a data chart, if you've got a LMS or something where it's able to show that, or you're able to go back through grades, and progress reports and things, and show them that. I think it's imperative. But yeah, also celebrate them where their moments led to improvement. Okay. And then that leads me to the last part of the framework, time management, being intentional with the final weeks. So the final weeks of school, of course, we know they feel compressed, competing priorities and limited ones. But without a clear plan, this period can become overwhelming because you're trying to finish grades, you're trying to finish projects, you're trying to figure out the next year, blah, 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 right? So some things you want to do: break down your larger tasks that you're finishing up into smaller tasks. Prioritize your high impact assignments. Create structured timelines with clear checkpoints. Okay. So those are some things that you can do, especially those clear checkpoints. Now, to have grit in action, it's imperative that you stay committed to the end goal, because at its core, grit is sustained effort over time. That's what Duckworth talked about. And it says here, according to Duckworth, it is not talent alone that drives success, but the combinations of passion and perseverance. So grit shows up when your students continue studying despite distractions. You have boot camps. You should be having boot camps coming on right now. Tutoring sessions, after school, Saturday school, right? Also, when you have teachers that maintain high expectations, even when the energy level is low, because you're both choosing consistency over convenience. Okay. When you do this, you can have some type of like a grit board, like some type of a motivational board for students. And so the final reflection here is that you didn't come this far just to come this far. Okay. Finishing strong is not about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about intention. It's about grit. So teachers, as this year comes to a close, remember, you didn't come this far just to come this far. Finish with purpose, finish with strength, and finish gritty. So that's a little bit of what I had to say about starting to be gritty to the finish line. My own son, who he and his team, they just ran their district track race, and they were very gritty, and they finished. And now they're on their way to state. So kudos to them. But, the concept of grit is there. And it's so funny because, I know my son earlier in the year, he was saying that he had something going on with his hip, and he's so young, but I was like, okay, we'll just, wait and see. Let's check it out. And, we worked through that, we worked through other kinks here and there. And now, they're on their way to state. So it shows that hard work pays off. Grit is it. Grit is it's always been it. I don't care what anybody else has to say. Grit is always going to be it, period. And so I think once you can conceptualize that and understand it, you'll see how it works not only for students, but for your life and for those that are around you. Every single one of us are using grit every day, whether we want to or not. Grit is it. So with that said, guys, that is what I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me again on the Let's Get Gritty podcast with Dr. India White. Again, this podcast, it will be featured on Spotify tonight. And also you can find it on social media platforms. Okay, you can help me share it out. And also, I wanted to encourage you, my social media platforms, the main ones, Facebook is Miss India White, LinkedIn is The India White, Twitter is Indy Speak and Teach, Instagram is Indy238, YouTube is India White 123, and TikTok is Dr. India White. Also, the website is www.india-white.com, so you can get books, blogs, or schedule me for a speaking or coaching event anytime. I hope you guys are able to register for the Florida Council of Teachers of Mathematics for that particular conference. See some really cool people there. That's coming up in June. I also have a conference coming up in June in Texas that I'm really excited about. I also wanted to encourage you, if you need tutoring over the summer, tutoring towards the end of this year, I'm here. I would love to support your family or your students. So get with me. Let's see how we can make it happen. Okay. Now, with that said, I just want to wish you guys a happy, successful end of the school year as you are wrapping up this year. I also want to encourage you to please have mercy on your students. You are in the classroom to help them win. You have nothing to prove. This is not a war, a power war between you and your kiddos. They need you. They're hoping that you can show them grace and mercy. So if a kid has a 59.4, can we figure out how we can help that child so that they can pass our classes? If the kid is on the verge of being suspended, can we figure out a way to mediate or do something else so that we can help our kids win? Because at the end of the day, it's all about helping students win. And teachers, if you look back on your life, if you are honest, you'll see the times that many people came through and helped you win when you weren't worthy of it, but yet they gave you a little push here, grace and mercy. They gave you some opportunities. And even if you're not a teacher, maybe you're an educator or a consultant, you're doing whatever, you can see that maybe you got an opportunity you didn't deserve, that you weren't necessarily qualified for, because somebody cared enough and somebody put you there. So if people had mercy on us, then we can surely have mercy on our students. So don't be too hard on yourself, though, teachers. But at the same time, please do what you can to finish the school year strong. Stay gritty, use grace and mercy, and just know that I'm proud of all of you. I'm sure you're doing fabulous work, and I can't wait to hear the reports and see the graduation photos, and including my own son, who will be graduating also from 8th grade. I'm really excited about that this year. So with that said, guys, thanks so much again for joining me on this fabulous Let's Get Gritty podcast. And until next time, stay gritty. See ya.